Have you ever wondered how a man could be in two places at the exact same time? Not as a metaphor, not as a dream, but in a real, visible, physical way? This is not something we expect in ordinary life. And yet, throughout the history of the Church, there are credible testimonies of saints who seem to defy the limits of space itself. Among them stands one of the most intriguing figures of the 20th century, Saint Padre Pio. While living a hidden life in a monastery in southern Italy, he was reportedly seen in distant places, on battlefields, in hospital rooms, even appearing to people who had never met him. Was this illusion? Was it legend? Or could it be something far deeper? Something that reveals how God can act beyond the laws we normally experience? Bilocation is the term often used to describe this phenomenon. But what does the Church actually teach about it? And why would God allow such an extraordinary gift in the life of a humble friar? If you want to grow in your understanding of the Catholic faith throughout the Church year, subscribe and continue this journey with us. In Catholic teaching, bilocation is not a power that a person controls or learns. It is understood as a rare and extraordinary grace, something God permits for a specific purpose. The person does not multiply themselves by their own ability. Rather, God allows their presence to be manifested in more than one place, usually for the sake of helping others. In the case of Padre Pio, numerous witnesses, some of them highly credible, claim to have seen him far from his monastery. Soldiers during World War II reported encountering a friar who warned them, guided them, or even protected them from danger. Later, when shown a photo, they identified that friar as Padre Pio. Even though he had never physically left Italy, there is something deeper happening here. These accounts are not about spectacle, they are about mission. God does not grant extraordinary signs to entertain curiosity, but to serve salvation. Scripture itself reminds us that God is not bound by space or time. In the Gospel of John, after the resurrection, Jesus appears suddenly among the disciples despite locked doors. This shows that glorified reality is not constrained in the same way as ordinary physical existence. While Padre Pio was not glorified in the same sense, these miracles echo the truth that God can act beyond natural limits. In the Acts of the Apostles, we also see moments where the early Church experiences supernatural guidance and intervention. While bilocation is not explicitly described, the principle is clear. God can bring his servants where they are needed, in ways that surpass human understanding. Historically, Padre Pio is not the only saint associated with bilocation. Saints like Saint Alphonsus Liguori and Saint Martin de Porres were also reported to have experienced similar phenomena. In each case, the Church approached these claims with caution, never rushing to declare them as fact, but recognizing them when supported by strong testimony and a life of holiness. But here is what many people overlook. The Church does not ask Catholics to believe in bilocation. Even when associated with canonized saints, these events belong to what is called private revelation. They can inspire faith, but they are not essential to it. This leads to some common misunderstandings. One is the idea that bilocation means a saint has divine powers. This is not true. Only God is omnipresent. A saint, even one as remarkable as Padre Pio, remains a creature. Any extraordinary phenomenon comes entirely from God's action, not human ability. Another misunderstanding is that these stories are meant to be sensational or to prove holiness through miracles alone. In reality, the Church always looks first at a person's life, their humility, obedience, charity, and fidelity to Christ. Padre Pio's holiness was not based on bilocation, but on his deep union with God, his life of prayer, and his willingness to suffer for others. So what does this mean for us today? Most of us will never experience anything like bilocation, but that is not the point. The deeper message is about availability to God. Padre Pio was so united to God's will that he became an instrument through which God could act freely, even in extraordinary ways. In our daily lives, this takes a much simpler form. It means being present where we are needed. It means responding to someone who is suffering, offering prayer for those far away, and trusting that God can use even small acts of love in ways we cannot see. We may not be in two places at once, but through prayer, we can spiritually reach people across the world. Through charity, we extend God's presence into situations of pain and need. This changes how we see holiness. It is not about extraordinary phenomena. It is about total openness to God. The story of Padre Pio's bilocation invites us to look beyond the surface. Yes, it is mysterious. Yes, it challenges our understanding. But ultimately, it points to something greater, a God who is not limited and who works through those who surrender completely to him. And perhaps that is the real miracle, not that a man appeared in two places, but that he belonged so fully to God that his life became a channel of grace wherever it was needed.